Network. Hello everybody, it's Paul Ducklin again, here on Naked Security Live. Once again, I'm in the English countryside, well out of the way of everybody else. Unfortunately, at this time of year, there's nowhere noisier than the English countryside. Town's gone very quiet, people aren't driving everywhere, but there's still a road here, there's a railway nearby. The birds are tweeting, I don't mind that, but it's planting season, so if you hear lots of tractor noise in the background, that's just the farmers getting busy. You might even hear lambs bleating, it's lambing season, but here we go. Oh, and by the way, I finally found the Facebook Live setting, and anyone at Facebook watching this, your settings are so easy to find on the live video. There's only 17 buttons to press to flip it around so you can read what it says on my shirt. And I apologise for being sweaty. I have just got here, stopped for a drink of water, and I thought I would tell you about something that I think is important, because quite a number of people have asked me privately as friends, and quite a number of readers and listeners have actually asked this same question. Hey, now I'm working from home, now I'm on my own, do I need a VPN? So let's start at the beginning. What do we mean by a VPN? You may know the answer to this, but I'm going to explain it just to make it clear technically what that means. VPN is short for Virtual Private Network. And when it says private, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all about privacy. It just simply means it's a way of using a public network that you don't own, that you don't operate, that you can't control, in a way that acts as though you had a long network cable that was plugged in at home or that was plugged in somewhere in the office. And how it works is kind of quite endearingly simple. You know that in your laptop or your mobile phone there'll be a chip that deals with networking, and that takes all the network traffic from the operating system, shoves it out down a wire if you're plugged into a router, via Wi-Fi, or it goes up to some mobile mast if you're on the mobile network. So there's a network card and some software that manages it, that sends and receives all your network traffic. So what a VPN does, in case you don't know where that traffic's going, is above the layer of the hardware, it creates effectively a software network card that whenever it receives traffic, whatever traffic it is, doesn't matter whether it's web browsing or email or software updating or DNS lookups or whatever you happen to be doing, all your network packets, first they get scrambled and encrypted, then they get sent out over the physical network to some far-flung location, and only there do those packets get decrypted, and then they get shoved out in the regular way on a regular network card. So the reason you might want to do that, the reason you might want this thing called a VPN, is there are kind of three main reasons. So do you need one? The first reason is you're working from home and your company said, thou shalt use a VPN. Now, you need to watch the rest of this video to see why they're not just having you on and why the inconvenience that it might bring you is worthwhile. But do you need a VPN if the company says use one to access work stuff? Yes, you do. So that's a simple answer. The next main reason why people use or used VPNs in the days before coronavirus is that idea of taking all their network traffic, not just their web browsing, anything they might do on their laptop or their phone, scrambling it before it reached a network they did not control, such as a coffee shop Wi-Fi, or a hotel Wi-Fi, or a Wi-Fi on the bus, or the train, or in an airport, or at a company they were just visiting, or free Wi-Fi in a town they were visiting. So they'd scramble everything and then send it across a part of the network that they couldn't control and didn't know anything about and didn't care to know anything about, and send it back somewhere which is where they would normally access the internet in their usual, potentially unencrypted way. And the third reason people use a VPN these days is because it allows you to sit here, encrypt your traffic, and have it pop out on the internet somewhere else. People use VPNs because it allows them to pretend to be in another country. And one of the reasons that can be handy, I'm not going to put any moral judgments or ethical judgments here, one of the reasons that can be handy is it can let you watch TV shows and movies that aren't available in your country. You're just basically shifting, if you like, your point of presence on the internet. So do you need one if you're at home? Well, the answer is, if you're at home and you haven't had a VPN before you started working from home, then you don't necessarily need one now, because imagine if you went out in the old days to a coffee shop and you had a VPN back to home and you emerged onto the internet at home, that would be the same as if you were sitting at home. Now you're not going out, you're sitting on a network with an ISP that presumably, possibly, you chose and perhaps you trust. So might you want a VPN even though you're at home? Well, obviously, if work wants your network traffic to emerge at work so they can apply the same controls that they used to when you were in the office, yes, you do need one. If you get a VPN at home, however, it may, or it may not, make you more secure. And there seems to be this myth that the private in VPN, because it's making a network connection that's just for you on a public network, a sort of private connection. It's not about privacy, and it's not about anonymity, and it's not necessarily about security. If you think about it, if you're sitting at home and you do not have a VPN, and you suddenly decide to get one, basically think of it like this. You're switching from having your network cable plugged in to a connection at home to having it plugged in somewhere else, possibly in another country, at another company. Basically, when you go from using your regular ISP to access the internet to going over a VPN to access the internet, it's kind of as though you switched ISPs. So an awful lot of trust has to be placed in the VPN provider, at least as much as you place in your current ISP, and at least with your current ISP, you know which jurisdiction it's in and you have some idea, I hope, depends on where you live in the world, you probably have some idea of what the government requires them to do or not to do with the traffic that passes through. So it's important to remember, if you get a VPN, it's very, very handy if you're traveling. It's very, very handy if you're using somebody else's network, particularly one where you're connecting to a Wi-Fi hotspot, and as far as you know, it could be run by a bunch of rogues. If you encrypt your traffic through that, you're kind of making a tunnel that comes out somewhere more trustworthy. Typically, that will be the office, or that will be your own home if you have a server there. What a VPN doesn't do, or what I suggest you think of a VPN as doing, is not making you more secure. What it does is it allows you to put yourself in a position where you can predict the level of security you've got. So this may sound a little bit like a cheesy way of saying it, but a VPN is designed to make you no less secure, for example, than when you're on your network at home or when you're on your network at work. In other words, it does give you, if you know where the VPN emerges, if you know where you're getting onto the internet, if you trust the VPN operator, and you know how those packets, once they're decrypted, reach the network, a VPN can be a great thing because it means you can ignore the way the traffic got there. That means if you're on an untrusted network. Of course, people aren't traveling these days. They're probably not in the office, probably at home. So if you create your own VPN and you connect via the VPN through your ISP to some VPN provider, and from that VPN provider back to work rather than through the works VPN, really all you're doing is you're changing one ISP for another. So don't forget that. And the other really important thing, if you want to go out and get a VPN, whether it's a special app you need on the phone or a service you're signing up to for your laptop, the important thing to remember is that private in VPN, as I hope I've explained, it's not about privacy. It doesn't magically make you anonymous. It doesn't make you into somebody else. Now, some VPN providers make a big play of saying, you know what, we don't keep any logs of who connects. It's not necessary in our country. You know, when you make connections and then you emerge on the internet and you do some dodgy stuff, we don't care. We won't keep a log of it. There's no history. Well, that may be true or it may not be true. I'm not saying that all VPN providers are rogues, but I can't promise you right now that all VPN providers are living up to the promises they make, because it's very hard to check that. You can't check the traffic that is emerging because it's emerging somewhere else. Got a question here. I have to lean in to see it. I hope I've not been set up by one of my colleagues. If I have, I'm going to get you. Lisa Saint-Romain, thanks. I was thinking about getting a VPN, but I haven't looked into it yet. Look, it's not a bad idea, but remember, in the BC days, before coronavirus, the reason people used VPNs is they were often traveling around and they were on networks that they just had no idea about, and they figured, you know what, it's better to emerge on my home network or my work network and be subject to exactly the same situation as I would be at home or at work than to worry about all that's in between. So if that's why you wanted to have a VPN before, you probably don't need one now. On the other hand, if you're unable to travel home because you're stuck in another country, then indeed this business of using a VPN so you can emerge on the internet in your home country may be very, very useful, because it may actually allow you to interact with people at home more easily, and it may make it easier for you to access services such as banking services in your own country, so the bank doesn't go, wow, I wonder why you're in some weird location. So But the point is, a VPN doesn't magically make you anonymous, and it doesn't magically make you private. If you put unencrypted packets, for example, if you visit an unencrypted HTTP, non-HTTPS website via a VPN, the unencrypted request that you're making gets scrambled, it gets sent to the VPN provider. At the VPN provider, it gets unscrambled, and then it emerges once again unencrypted at the other end. If you use a connection over a VPN and then you log into Facebook or Twitter or Google or Outlook.com or whatever it is under your own name, it doesn't magically make you into somebody else. All it does is say your traffic's coming from somewhere that's not your own mobile phone network or your own ISP. And in some cases, you might actually prefer that because you might have gone out of your way to choose an ISP or a mobile provider on the basis of the trust you've got in them. And adding a VPN to that might make you less secure. So think of a VPN. It won't make you more secure, but it can stop you being less secure by mistake because there's an element that you think you can't trust anymore. And if you're determined to emerge on the internet in some other country, and some VPN providers let you pick the country where you pretend to be, typically for reasons of watching TV shows, a VPN can do that. Your regular ISP can't do that because when you plug into that socket in the wall, that socket in the wall is in your house, in your town, in your country. So a VPN is really about shifting your traffic from one place to another and letting it emerge on the internet. So think of your VPN provider as a different ISP. That's all I've got for today, folks. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't going to go, well, the word private is in virtual private network, so that will solve all my security problems. I kind of wish I might have a go at bending the camera. I don't know whether, and step aside, I don't know whether, I wanted to get a bluebell wood, and there are some bluebells there to prove that it's spring, and now I have to crouch down. Caroline, hi Caroline, she said, we've always used VPNs for both home and work. Well, if you've been using VPNs before, excellent, don't give it up. It sounds like you've made that decision, it's what you want to do. And certainly for work, it means that work can apply the same security measures on your traffic while you're at home as they would if you're in the office. So although that may sound, oh, they're going to be watching what they're doing, remember, it means that if work has got additional web filtering, additional email filtering and all of that stuff, and they can make sure you've got your patches, and they can make sure if you don't update your browser that you don't get onto the wrong places on the internet, that means that because you're emerging through work, it's very unlikely you're going to be less secure than if you just go wild at home. So a VPN can help, but it doesn't make you more secure, it just stops you being less secure. So thanks for watching, folks. If you've got any more questions, please leave them in the comments below. I presume they're below, you can't quite see on a phone. And until next time, stay secure. And now the finish button again, reaching in, pressing it really carefully. I think I missed it.